Is Primerica a legitimate company? A lot of agents ask that question, and my job today is to answer that as best as possible from the perspective of an agent and an agency owner, and to try to provide you context. Again, for myself as someone in the business, to answer your questions and concerns about Primerica so you can decide truly if it's a good fit for you or not. And what we're going to do is a little bit different with our format today. We're actually going to be looking at Deanna Mims' video where she interviews a former Primerica rep on what the process is like or was like for her as she went through her experience with Primerica, so that you can get some insight from somebody who's actually been in it, and then also get insight from myself, who's actually an insurance agent and agency owner. So the goal here is to provide perspective. It's to provide a sense of experience that is truly unique in the sense that it's coming from someone in the insurance business, not somebody from the outside who doesn't get it. And so you can decide if this whole thing is legit for you or not. One of the first things you're going to do if you're interested in joining Primerica is to join what's called an opportunity meeting. So let's listen to what the opportunity meeting entails to give you a better idea of what to expect, and then I'll give you my thoughts.
We went to this opportunity meeting, and Brandon got up and he did like this rousing, like, welcome everyone. And he would like clap after like everything, after the most asinine things he would say. And he'd be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Who's excited? Everybody claps. And it was this room of like 50 people. After that whole thing happened, they talked about the business, they talked about success, they called out people who had success, and they took me upstairs, and that's when they went in for the kill.
So what this lady's talking about is typical of most insurance agencies who are mass appeal, that are very large, that recruit across America. They do what's called opportunity overviews. And the idea behind it is to sell blue sky. It's to sell the dream. You'll hear this a lot with pretty much any sort of organization out there that mass recruits pretty much anybody with a pulse. So they take you into the organization. It's more of like a rah-rah, get you motivated type of thing. There's less talk about the product and more about how much money people are making. They'll parade people around who are supposed examples. And the whole point of this is to get you motivated to sell and encouraged to join. But what lacks a lot of times is kind of being insinuated here from this lady is that there's not a lot of context with what are you selling? How does the products work? What's the good? What's the bad? What's the ugly? That's why going to these opportunity meetings, you got to be very careful from what you're hearing. You're going to hear a lot of the good side of the business because remember, a lot of people who run these organizations are fantastic salespeople. They know what to tell you to get you excited and what not to tell you to discourage you.
It's actually a really good product. That doesn't make it not, the MLM is still terrible and I would never recommend buying it, but the product itself is good. So the insurance is good. So if you knew how to sell it, it was not the hardest thing to sell. People were in the market.
So a lot of people will ask, are the products good at Primerica? And this is the thing that tends to be very true across the insurance business for any sort of mass recruiting type of organizations. The products are great. These insurance products that Primerica offers, they save families' financial lives. They protect them. They do well. And many times, even if somebody is just disgusted with how an agency recruits and what its values are and how they find people and recruit them, no matter if it's good or bad, they really feel good about the carrier itself and what it's able to do. So I think it's important to take the time to understand that these insurance products are definitely legitimate. They take care of clients. Is it the best price? Is it going to always be the best option for a client? No, there never is one option that's the best for everybody. But I believe that Primerica's insurance is really good. It'll do a good job for the clients that are qualified for it. If you have questions about the product, I would say they're good. It's the questions about how the organization is built and the role of how recruiting, that's where a lot of agents really have the issues with it. Leads, that's the next question. A lot of agents ask, well, how do you find prospects to sell insurance to? You can have a great product, but do you have a system to find prospects that lasts on a consistent basis? Let's see how this lady describes how Primerica's lead generation process works.
Go on with, your leader, they call it a leader, your upline, and to schedule meetings with as many of your family members in a hot market as you could to start off with so you can get to that fast start bonus. And that's exactly what I did. I recruited family members. I got my fast start bonus to have 3 people in like 30 days.
So with Primerica, the primary strategy that is taught is working your friends and family. So this means reaching out to them on social media. It means reaching out to them the old-fashioned way. Whatever you can do to get in front of people who already know, like, and trust you so that you can do some sort of insurance analysis and then offer some kind of product to them. This strategy works really well because People buy from people they like and trust first and foremost. And somebody who's a stranger has a long way to go in many cases before they will buy. You're already one-upping the situation when you've got a relationship with somebody. That's how sales works. Of course, the downside of this is if you don't want to sell friends and family because you want to like go to Christmas dinners without any sort of like stress and, people to return your phone calls when you call them. That's an issue. I know I never was comfortable selling friends and family. I didn't want to harass people that I knew through past businesses or friends. It was just not my style. So this is something you should consider. If you're planning on joining Primerica, do you really feel comfortable with the friends and family approach? If you don't, there's not going to be a lot of other options to sell, unfortunately, unless you want to go cold and approach people in a grocery store. So what about expenses? What about what you have to invest? So a lot of these companies out there will require you to pay some kind of fee to join, but there's other expenses in the insurance business that rarely anyone ever talks about, and that's what's called chargebacks. Chargebacks, well, let's just listen to how she describes it, and then I'll follow up because it's so important that you learn what chargebacks are, because if you don't, you're going to end up in a ton of debt that you don't want to be in.
Marco, he talked to a Primerica leader. And one of the things the Primerica leader was saying was that, you don't have to pay anything. And what this Primerica leader conveniently left out was chargebacks. What those are is if a person cancels their policy, you have to pay back the money. You got to pay back a fee, you as a distributor. Now, all of my policies eventually that I sold, and it wasn't that many. I think I sold the whole time I was there. I want to say and this is over a 6-month period. If I'm being like optimistic, 20.
So what happens with chargebacks, if you sell a plan, you don't get paid a non-refundable commission. We call it an advance. It's a loan on what is expected for that policy to pay, assuming, and this is the contingency, assuming the policy stays on the books. Well, if you sell a plan, someone keeps it for a month or two, then lets it go because they don't want it, and you were given $1,000, you may have to pay that full $1,000 back. That $1,000 was your commission advance. Well, since the collateral, the policy is gone, well, now you have to owe the Primerica all of that money back. And this is important because it speaks in volumes to how you should be selling, the quality of the business. You just don't sell random people on the street. You sell people who are actually qualified to buy the product you're selling. Because in the business of this, it's not like selling a car where you sell the thing and then you're in the clear after 3 days or whatever. You're on the hook for sometimes 9 months for some balance of that commission you were paid. It's a unique factor of this business that isn't clarified, because what happens is, as an agent, if you just are doing what you're told and you write a bunch of business and it's poor quality business, maybe you overcharge them, you talk them into it too hard, a lot of those people cancel. And now you have to pay this stuff back. Again, chargebacks, very few people ever talk about it, but it is real, and you need to make sure that informs you as to what you sell and to how you sell in a more consultative way and less pushy. So as we wrap up this video, the commenter here, the guest, has some things to say about the shady aspects of doing business with Primerica. Now, I don't necessarily agree with what she's about to say, but decide for yourself if you think this is shady or it's not shady. But you got to know kind of what to expect as you come in and what your roles are. So let's listen and then I'll respond.
I would usually be in a store. I remember one of the people that stayed with me longer was this guy named John. And I think he stayed with me in the MLM for like a month. And he was like my longest person other than my mom. He worked at this like baby store, and I just made up this like, oh, I'm looking at clothes for my niece, which was a complete lie. And then I started, I do have a niece, but that was a lie. And then I started like this conversation with him and talked him into coming. And so I would do stuff like that all the time. I would like think about something to just say. And I remember this one time, and this is so humiliating when I think about it. So I'd met this guy at this bakery, and he agreed to come in. I think I said the same thing. I'm like, oh, you'd be great at this job. You're like he had like this really bubbly personality. And looking back, I think this was kind of like a people pleaser type of personality, because I have that as well. So I don't know if he really wanted to do it. I think he just kind of felt pressured. And so when we went in, I was trying to close him to join. And I was like pushing him so hard. I was like, all right, give me like, let's talk about this. Okay, so give me 2 names of people that you can reach out to today. He's like, no, I didn't really want to. And I'm like, then give me 1 name. And I was like being so terrible and mean and just like kind of like berating him almost. in a way. And he just was sitting there kind of like shrinking away. He wasn't very assertive. Yeah. And then it was really bad. And then I sent him this email.
So with Primerica, one of the strategies they teach you to do is go out and approach random people to inform them of the opportunity and to help you, help them see what it is you can do to help them become successful, right? So this is cold prospecting in terms of finding people either to sell insurance to or to join your organization. Many times you're doing both. You'll try to sell them a policy and then get them to join. And it's just the way it works in any sort of MLM. The question isn't about, is it wrong to approach people? It's more about, do you feel, and are you doing it in an ethical way? Obviously, as listening to this lady, I don't feel comfortable with how she did it, right? Lying about why she's there to get somebody to do something that she wants. She's compromising her own ethics. You can hear it in her voice, situationally speaking, and she regrets it, you can tell. But this is the kind of thing that certain organizations push. I don't know if Primerica as a whole does it. It may be certain managers, I don't know. But these are the things that you may hear getting into an insurance-based MLM, because recruiting tends to be their focus, not producing. And so they're going to push you to go out there and talk to strangers and to get them to get signed up, thinking that's the road to making a ton of money. It is a very good business model. But again, it's not so much is that good or bad, it's how you do it. And I believe in this case, approaching people, random strangers, lying to them, harassing them to join. You know, what happens a lot of times with these recruits, they never do anything. You know, just because you get them to sign the dotted line doesn't mean they're actually going to go out there and sell. You know, you want people who are eager and interested, not kind of drug across the finish line. And I think this is the inverse of what we like to do. For example, in our agency, we have people attracted to us because we put out good content that helps. And that's how you kind of do it in the new way. The old way is just kind of harassing, say random things to you just to get you to respond. And that never works long term. Okay, so this last clip is so important. I hear this all the time when people join large organizations that are usually operated on a multi-level marketing basis. And it is so critical that you understand this. She's, of course, learning this after she's quit the business, after she's got out of insurance. You're going to learn this on the front end, and let this be the guiding principle to helping you choose which agency to join. If you're going to do insurance and you're not sure if Primerica is for you at this point, there's a lot of other organizations out there, and what their focus is really makes a difference. So let's listen to her, and then I'll elaborate.
Just really pay attention to what the business focuses on. It's never about the products. It's always about the dream.
Yeah, this is so important. If you are looking at an organization to join in the insurance business and they focus on the dream, they rah-rah you to death. They get you excited like it's some sort of Kool-Aid drinking fest. There's a reason they're doing this. It's because it avoids the painfulness of actually observing and reviewing and thinking through critically if a business opportunity is a good fit, and to weigh not just the pros, but the cons too. Truly, there's no such thing as a business that has all pros and no cons, and all cons and no pros. You're going to have some sort of mix of good and bad with any business you start or any profession you join, right? But the thing that really gets me with a lot of these organizations is they make the emphasis about the recruiting and how wonderful it is without telling you about all the hard work, the sacrifice, and the focus that you're going to have learning the product, learning the script on how to sell, and learning a process to generate prospects. They don't ever bring this up in many of these organizations until after you're recruited and hooked in. And that's why they sell the dream. It's just easier to do at mass scale. It's harder to go out there and say, yeah, this business sucks. 95% of people fail out. The 5% of people that stay make a lot of money. Probably will be a statistic. Like, that's kind of the reality of this business. But going out there and talking about it, a lot of people are afraid that it'll discourage away enough people. My opinion is if you talk honestly and openly about the good and the bad with somebody, you're going to attract not everybody. You're definitely going to lower your recruit numbers, but it's not about recruit numbers. It's about recruit quality. People that still stick around after that usually are better caliber candidates that would have stuck around either way, but with a more realistic and honest approach to telling them what to expect. You're going to have a much better stick rate and success rate, in my opinion. So I hope this reaction video to this Primerica rep interview, ex-Primerica rep interview, gave you some important perspective, some really important takeaways here I want to hit on, because it's just so important to get this decision right about how to join to sell an organization, sell insurance, because the insurance business is awesome, but there's a lot of pitfalls. Number one, avoid the organizations that do rah-rah stuff. Like, as soon as it sounds like some sort of like revival, it's not supposed to be that way. They're hiding, in many cases, the truth or the reality of the business, not just the good, but the bad as well. And that's what you want to hear instead. If you have a company that talks to you about, the first thing they talk about is, we're going to get you recruited into this organization so you can recruit other people. Run. The problem there is they're not talking about what it takes to make money. Think about it. If you recruit a bunch of people like this lady did, and nobody sells anything, are you making any money? No. You need to learn how to sell first and get good at it so you can make money, number one. And number two, then you become a position that people want to learn from because you have street cred. So I think there's this disorder about what is important. And sometimes you got to learn how to crawl before you learn how to walk. You learn how to sell successfully first before you learn how to recruit. Also understand that there's chargebacks in this business. This is why you don't want to sell everybody with a pulse. You want to qualify prospects. Make sure your people who are thinking about buying insurance are actually qualified and want it, that the price is actually affordable, that it'll stick in their budget, that the product itself will solve some kind of problem for the client. Like, if you go through this stuff, you're not going to have nearly as many chargebacks as you would if you just try to wholesale sell everything and anything to anybody without consideration, trying to solve some kind of insurance-related problem they have. And make a decision on how you and what you're comfortable with when it comes to marketing and generating leads. The insurance business is like any sales model. You can have a great product, but if you don't have a system to get in front of prospects, you're dead in the water. So it's imperative that you also have a corresponding lead generation and prospecting system that you can comfortably do and feel confident in. If it's not the friends and family approach, it doesn't have to be that, by the way, then you need to look at strategies to where you can do social media, where you can buy direct mail. Even that still works these days. Do seminar marketing. There's a lot of different processes that work. The key thing is to find something you're comfortable with, because like, if you asked me to sell friends and family, I could have been with the best insurance company when I first started. I would have failed out. So again, it's imperative that you pick the right marketing process. In some ways, that's more important than the company you're with, because if without marketing, you're not going to make a sale. Thank you very much for watching this Primerica reaction video. If you'd like to learn how we recruit agents nationally to sell insurance over the phone, in person, we provide free leads. We let you buy your own leads if you want. It's a great organization focused on training first. Go to my site, davidduford.com, for more information on how our business works.